So time to take a look at the morning's papers now. Here with me to review them are the anthropologist Mariana Hotter and the journalist and author Janelle Aldred. So a very good morning to both of you. Lovely to see you both. And quite a few different stories around on the front pages, so quite interesting to take us through them. Janelle, you picked out the Eye's front page first of all, and of course the end of the first week of Rishi Sunak's prime ministerial role, and the Eye suggesting that there are still some real divisions within the party.
Yeah, so Sunak's allies want to end the truce that essentially saw him rise to power and become Prime Minister not even a week ago. So that truce was actually shorter than the length of time Liz Truss was in office, which is pretty quick. And that shows how dysfunctional the party of law and order are at the moment. So it seems that privately a number of Tories who supported Mr Sunak's campaign to become PM want him to sack Suella Braverman. And it seems that this deal that was done, supposedly done, to allow him to get the number of votes to get him over the line is really only benefiting Suella Braverman this week. There's been talks about the MI5 having to give her lessons on how to keep, security secrets that keep us all safe a secret and not send them on personal emails, which seems fairly obvious to most of us, but apparently not to her. And it also seems that Boris's little gang aren't going to go quietly like he didn't go quietly. And, all of the does he have enough votes to be in the leadership campaign, does he not? And it seems the old gang are back together again with Nadine Dorries now criticising him for not going to the COP27, as well as Rees Mogg now kind of talking about Brexit and how he's going to be pushing that agenda from the backbenches. And so it would seem that the very lightly held truce that was in place now looks like it could be decimated, because it seems that for Rishi Sunak to hold on to power, he's going to need to do a show of strength. I mean, personally, if I was advising him, I would say sooner rather than later to rip the plaster off, because I think she will have to go eventually. The breach was so serious. So I think the quicker he shows his strength, probably the better for the party. But it looks like they are going more to the centre, that's his vision, but the right wing of the party don't share that same view of what should happen, why Suella Braverman is there. But it just, again, goes to reiterate just how fractured the party is, and do they have it in them to stay the course and steady the ship until the next general election, if that doesn't happen until 2024. But I do think a general election would be the answer that everybody needs right now for some long-term stability.
Well, that's certainly what the opposition parties are calling for, isn't it? Obviously being resisted by the Conservative Party. Rishi Sunak standing by his Home Secretary and clearly trying to make sure his cabinet reflects the different wings of the party. Whether or not that kind of unity will hold is a question. The Eye raising that question. But let's move on, shall we, Marianne, to the front page of the Times next, because again, another day of headlines about Rishi Sunak's decision not to go to COP27, as Janelle was mentioning there. There had been this question as well over whether King Charles would now go now that there's a new Prime Minister. So, but the answer is no.
Apparently so. Apparently King Charles is champing at the bit to go to COP27 in Egypt. But what's happened is that he's asking, Rishi Sunak has agreed that the conversation won't be opened again, that decision was made with Liz Truss, and that both parties would unanimously stand by that. So the kind of big question is, does that really do justice, I guess, to kind of what it is that we want to represent in terms of being the leader of COP, with Alok Sharma is still currently the president of COP26. So that was our role in Glasgow last year. And I think it's fundamentally, A, what does it say about our government's commitment to the climate change agenda, and B, what does it say about our ability to maintain a leadership role on the world stage? Either way, I don't think it looks great, even though obviously Rishi Sunak does have a lot of other things to do. He's
well, exactly, and sorry to butt in. There might be a lot of public sympathy for this line of, I've got a lot of pressing domestic issues. I'm still committed to net zero. It's still a priority for us, but we've got this issue of this very important autumn statement, which falls within the dates of COP27. Members of the public might feel sympathetic to that.
I think so. But I think maybe that would be a reason to kind of have that conversation again and say, well, I can't go. I've got a bunch of other stuff to be getting on with, which is really important. Why not send King Charles? Now, apparently the rationale for Liz Truss saying, I don't want you to go to COP27 is because that would be his first public engagement overseas, and she wanted to use that for diplomatic purposes, kind of keep the powder dry, as it were, and then send him off to Canada or somewhere where we want to establish a trade deal. But again, the bigger picture is part of the reason that Rishi Sunak has so much work to do to keep his party together, keep the country going through this winter, deal with this huge cost of living crisis and the energy cost crisis. Is one of the ways of addressing that is really to commit to addressing climate change and energy security in the most holistic way possible, which is not just giving Shell and ExxonMobil tax breaks to pump out more oil and gas, but actually going, well, how do we accelerate new renewables? How do we start to address those hard-to-abate sectors, like the big, heavy manufacturing stuff? How do we insulate our homes so that we maximise our kind of efficiency? And it's those questions that I feel like we can't kick it down the road too far because, the future is burning.
Okay, and we may in another hour have more time to discuss the Guardian's front page as well. And this is Alok Sharma, COP26 president, as you say, calling for the windfall tax on oil and gas profits to be extended, all part of the same conversation. But let's move on, shall we, and bring Janelle back in, because you were quite keen to talk about the FT's front page, Janelle, and this is Elon Musk taking over Twitter.
Yeah, so the deal has finally gone through, of course, in typical marketing fashion style, a picture of him holding a sink and saying, he's bringing in everything in the kitchen sink. £44 billion for Twitter, which seemed like a good deal a while ago, for the banks who have promised to put up $12.5 billion. He obviously has a different credit rating to me to get that kind of clout to buy Twitter. It doesn't look like a good deal at the moment, because not just is Twitter what will happen, Donald Trump is now saying that it's in a sane pair of hands. I don't know if anyone would want that kind of praise. But at the same time, a lot of tech companies are actually losing money on their shares and value. Some $11 trillion has been dropped from Amazon, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and also Microsoft. That's 11 trillion combined dropped off the stocks and shares, because eventually the cost of living crisis does trickle up because people can't afford to spend as they used to. People have different habits, engaging with social media in a very different way. And it's interesting, one of the reasons why people are engaging less with social media is because they feel less safe on social media. And one of the things Elon Musk has done is he's fired the woman who banned Donald Trump from Twitter, as well as the CEO and the CFO. So I think this is very, very interesting sign of the times as what's the future of social media as things plateau and settle down. I'm actually in the States at the moment, and it's really interesting. They were comparing the stocks of Meta to Home Depot, which is a DIY store, and saying the stocks are lower than that. So what is the future of tech? What's the future of the metaverse that Meta have put a lot of money into? So it's an interesting time for social media.
Really fascinating discussion that I wish we had about half an hour to go into, but we are out of time, unfortunately. Very pleased to say that you're back next hour and the hour after that, so lots of time to discuss all these other stories. But Marianne and Janelle, for the moment, thanks both very much indeed. And all the top stories coming up next, of course, on Sky News Breakfast.